Donald Trump looked and sounded completely incoherent on stage tonight. I'm not exaggerating. The noises he made, the words he tried and failed to say, the frantic gestures and the bizarre demonstrations all pointed to one thing. He was falling apart publicly. And it happened at none other than the McDonald's World Impact Summit. Yes, Trump's favorite fast food empire ended up hosting one of the most embarrassing moments of his career. The audience tried to laugh along, but his meltdown was so extreme that even his supporters fell silent. We're going to break down everything that happened, but before we get into it, please leave a like on this video, and if you enjoy the channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Now, before we dive into this on-stage collapse, and truly, if you watch only one clip today, make it this one. We have to begin with the way Donald Trump tried to brag while insisting he never brags.
Government jobs were going up, real jobs were going down. So you would have had that catastrophe, and on top of it, instead of 20 trillion coming in, you would have had 10 trillion leaving our country. In other words, you would have had a catastrophe. You probably would have had a bankrupt country. You are so damn lucky that I won that election. I'm telling you. It's actually true. I hope the press covers that. Sometimes he got up and he ranted and raved and bragged. I don't brag. I just give you the facts. It's true. But those in this room know.
I genuinely don't know who has benefited from this presidency other than a handful of billionaires and the Trump family itself. Yet here he was at an impact summit, supposedly delivering a speech on affordability. That was literally the theme. While demanding praise for policies that have made life more expensive for nearly everyone in the country, and then claiming he doesn't brag on top of it? An interesting choice, especially for a moment that barely qualified as a speech, because what followed was one of the most chaotic on-stage meltdowns I've ever witnessed. Trump tried, at least in the beginning, to stick to the topic of affordability. It didn't last. But here's what he attempted to say about prices before everything fell apart.
We are doing better than we've ever done as a country. Prices are coming down and all of that stuff. And, they talk about different terms for that. But I will tell you that nobody has done what we've done in terms of pricing. We took over a mess.
This man couldn't even be bothered to do the job he promised on the campaign trail. Prices, hunger, basic necessities, none of it seemed to matter to him. People need food, they need housing, they need health care. Yet under his policies, tens of thousands lost coverage every year so he could push through a bigger tax break for the ultra-wealthy, creating even more billionaires and would-be trillionaires. All of that suffering? He brushed it off, as if it were nothing. He openly mocked how little he cared. And keep in mind, this was still during the coherent portion of the speech, before the full meltdown that came later. But then he moved on to talking about wages, and that's where Trump really cranked up the nonsense and the self-congratulation.
Legally. And wages for hourly workers are rising at the fastest pace in 60 years. And sometimes you might say, was that good or bad? It's great for you. The minimum wage thing you'll have to be talking about. You're going to have to fight. We were talking about California, Gavin Newsom from California. And I knew he's laying siege on the minimum wage. And you people probably know, because that's a very complex subject, and you people probably know better than anybody the impact one way or the other, good or bad. And you're going to let your local congressmen, your senators know about it. But in 9 months, we've lifted over.
So in a room packed with some of the wealthiest people in the country, Donald Trump decided to reassure them by promising that he and Republicans in Congress would fight any effort to raise the minimum wage. And remember, this speech was supposed to be about affordability. It was billed as a discussion about improving people's lives under the Trump administration. A premise so absurd it's hard not to laugh at it. But Trump veered so far off course in this speech that even I'm shocked. And at this point, I shouldn't be. Still, Before we get to the full on-stage meltdown, listen to what he claimed about who isn't laughing at us anymore.
Incredible what's taken place in our country. The world was laughing at us like we were stupid people. They're not laughing anymore. They don't laugh at us anymore. They respect us now again, and that's what we want. We want to be liked. We want to be respected, much more so than being liked. And you know, in a certain way, they like us better now, too. They respect us, but they like us better now because the world was ripping off our country.
All right, I think I've set the stage here. Donald Trump showed up to give a speech on affordability, demanded credit for everything, and claimed the world doesn't laugh at us anymore. And what did he do immediately afterward? He delivered one of the most unhinged on-stage meltdowns of his entire life. You'll see exactly what I mean when you watch this clip. It genuinely looks like he completely lost control in real time. Just take a look.
So one of the things? They saw a lot of unbelievable activity going on at the McDonald's next to the base where they take off. The McDonald's was doing 5 times. They were going crazy. So they say, there's something going on over there. The biggest activity that McDonald's had ever had. And it was a nice story, how well it's doing, but that was not a good story for us. So I canceled it and then I announced we're canceling it. And the pilots said they were devastated. Then I put it back in the exact same time because that was the only time they weren't thinking would happen.
Did you catch any of what he was actually saying? Because I couldn't make sense of a single word, phrase, or point. He kept talking about the weave. Like, you need to do the weave. But what was he even weaving toward? His words were a jumble. It's 5 times, and the people, and then we went, and then they loved, and then they didn't. He clearly didn't have a coherent message, and it was obvious to everyone watching that he was completely off track.
They went to sugar. Isn't that nice? I said, you got to go to sugar. Just like I said, why is the Gulf of Mexico called the Gulf of Mexico? I said, we're changing the name. And now it's the Gulf of America. It has nothing to do with McDonald's, but maybe it does. Because it's very nice cycling. We have 92% of the shoreline. They have 8%. I wouldn't say I made a lot of friends in Mexico, but they still like me.
What on earth is the connection between cane sugar in Coca-Cola and the Gulf of Mexico? At this point, he's just throwing words out randomly. It's like he's saying, I have no idea what this has to do with anything, but who cares? Nothing he's saying makes sense. And I know I'm sounding panicked, but how can anyone watch this? Remember that this person controls the nuclear codes and feel at ease. We shouldn't. This should alarm us. One moment he's bragging about some MRI and all the brain scans he supposedly got, then telling us the doctors gave him a lollipop and he wasn't really paying attention, yet somehow it was the greatest thing ever. And then, as if the verbal chaos wasn't enough, he shifted into physical antics, trying to do some kind of comedy on stage. It does not stop. And you really have to see it to believe it.
And then they said skedaddle, the word skedaddle. And that plane went psh, like this. You know, when it drops a bomb, it goes down very steeply because that gives it a better angle and, you know, more speed for the bomb. They're very, very heavy bombs. And they go boom. And as soon as those things, the one pilot, the first one said, skedaddle. And that thing just turned in its side. Psh, and it's so unbelievable. And that knocked out Iran nuclear capability, and all of the Middle East became a different place. And now we have peace in the Middle East. And at the United Nations today, they approved the Board of Peace, which is I'm going to chair. And we're picking the leaders or the heads of the most important nations in the world. I think it'll be a board like no other than perhaps the McDonald's board. You have a very good board. You actually have a very good board. But nobody thought a thing like that this just happened today. The Board of Peace, and it's going to be comprised of myself and leaders of other very important nations and very respected nations, and it's going to be something I think is going to be very important. It was just approved. It was just endorsed by the United Nations. It was pretty great.
Did we really need a live demonstration? Were we in any urgent need of Donald Trump's antics with the planes, the woo, the G's, and all the rest? His words made no sense. His behavior has always been erratic and over the top. But this was different. It was clear he was struggling to stay coherent. The mainstream media should be asking more questions. About the brain imaging he's had, about what happened during that 4-hour Walter Reed visit. When Trump goes for a checkup, there's usually no waiting around. They move him quickly from room to room. Spending 4 hours there suggests something unusual happened, and the public deserves transparency. It's also worth noting that Trump, after the Iran bombing, seemed oddly fixated on the word skedaddle, claiming he popularized it. But back to the speech, after the verbal chaos, he shifted to physical antics. He even gave a wrist demonstration on stage. And somehow, it just kept getting worse.
But they have the line. The people had no idea. So I made the French fries. The guy was really good. He had a great wrist. He was, sir. He was going like, sir. Yeah. Nice. It was not that easy. But I got it sort of finally. Not the greatest, but I get it, pouring it in, asking him all sorts of stupid questions. But it was very interesting. Amazing. A little thing is not, it's a little complex, right? To father and son over there that own a lot. They're very rich people. But
I have to ask this. Was the wrist demonstration connected to anything from the past? I won't even go there. We don't need to dive into that. You know what I mean. Trump also spent part of the speech talking about his admiration for big hands. At this point, it felt like he was trying to pivot. And then he attempted another shift in tone, presenting himself as the working-class hero that he claims to be. Take a look at what he said and how he tried to frame it.
The job that McDonald's has done is incredible, and that you're doing. But as you may have heard, I'm also one of your all-time most loyal customers. I really am. I think that's good. I'm pretty sure that's good. While other politicians fly around on campaign planes stocked with expensive catering, on Trump Force One, prior to ascending to Air Force One, which is quite a nice plane also, we served only McDonald's almost every time. On occasion, we couldn't find one, which is pretty hard to believe. We'd go another route, but we really did. You fed us very well, and I even got Bobby Kennedy to eat a Big Mac. And he told me he loved it. He didn't want that publicized. He told me he loved it. I thought it was great.
So Donald Trump, the man who has filled the Oval Office with gold, is now calling himself a working-class hero because he eats McDonald's. And look, I'll disagree with Trump on nearly everything, but McDonald's is great. I enjoy it too. That said, flying on a Qatari jet, which, by the way, we're footing the bill to have refitted, and bringing a Big Mac on board doesn't make you any less of a billionaire. Everyone still knows he's a billionaire, which is part of why Trump is losing followers. At this point, all he can cling to is himself and his love of the spotlight, but people are starting to turn away. Tim Miller discussed this with Nicole Wallace, and I want to leave you with that insight. Take a look.
Right now, I think we've tried the route of trying to bring in people that are of the kind of college-educated, suburban, former Republican, moderate McCain types. Me and you fit in that boat, Nicole. We grabbed as many of those as we could, and Donald Trump still won last time. And so in order to crack his coalition now, you need to get people that were with him the third time after the insurrection, and that's going to be a gnarlier process, okay? That's going to be a gnarlier process. We're going to have issues with all those folks, and so if she wants to say she's sorry, if she wants to speak to this, if she's representative of other people out there who feel betrayed by him, who went with him the third time, that's a good thing.
Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene is stepping away from Donald Trump, not because she's frustrated with his policies or the messy politics, but because she can see the direction things are heading. I don't want to give her too much credit, but she does understand the base, and that base will soon be moving on from this aging figure. They will leave him behind and will witness it as he continues to unravel day by day on the show. If you want to support this coverage, hit the subscribe button and leave a like on the video. If you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.